The morning light was soft and golden, spilling through the half-drawn curtains and warming the kitchen tiles under your bare feet. The faint hum of the coffee machine mixed with the gentle sizzle of eggs in the pan. You were still in your loose cotton pajamas, hair loosely tied, sleeves rolled up as you focused on breakfast. You didn't hear him at first, the quiet, stealthy footsteps padding across the hallway, but you felt him. Two warm arms suddenly wrapped tightly around your waist from behind, pulling you back against a solid chest. His familiar scent, a mix of fresh laundry and that faint trace of his cologne, instantly surrounded you. There you are. Jungkook mumbled against your shoulder, his voice deep and still rough from sleep. I woke up and my wife was missing. You smiled but kept your eyes on the pan. Your wife is making sure you don't go to the office hungry. He ignored your practical tone, tightening his hold like a stubborn child. My wife should be in bed with me. You chuckled. It's past 7, Cook. Normal people wake up at this hour. But I'm not normal, he said with complete seriousness, resting his chin on your shoulder. I'm a man in love and in desperate need of his morning cuddles. Morning cuddles can happen after breakfast. I want them now. His lips brushed the side of your neck, lingering for a soft kiss. Come on, just 10 minutes. I'll even set a timer. You'll set it and then snooze it 5 times. You countered, shaking your head. He grinned against your skin. You know me too well. Someone has to. You teased. He swayed you gently side to side, almost like slow dancing in the middle of the kitchen. You have been up for what, 20 minutes, and I already miss you. That's not fair. You glanced at him over your shoulder. If I didn't know better, I would say you are trying to make me burn the eggs. Maybe I am. Then you would have no choice but to make a second batch, and I could keep you here longer. His tone was mischievous, but his eyes, they were soft, adoring, and fixed only on you. You rolled your eyes fondly. Go wash your face. You still look half asleep. I am half asleep. That's why I need you back in bed to finish the job. He punctuated the sentence with another kiss, this time on your cheek. You'll be late for work. You warned. So what? He shrugged, nuzzling closer. Work can wait. My wife is more important. Before you could give in to his clinginess, the doorbell rang, sharp and unexpected, cutting through the warm cocoon of the moment. Both of you stilled, exchanging a puzzled look. Who could that be at this hour? You asked, frowning slightly. I'll set the table, Jungkook said reluctantly, finally letting you go. You checked the door. He wiped your hands and walked over, unlocking it to reveal a woman dressed in a chic coat, her dark hair falling in perfect waves over her shoulders. She was holding a designer handbag and wearing a smile that was both warm and practiced. Hey, she greeted smoothly. I hope I'm not disturbing you this early. Not at all. You replied politely, though your mind was already trying to place her face. Come in, you offered. The moment she stepped inside, Jungkook's voice came from the dining area, bright and surprised. Minji, what a surprise. She smiled wider, walking toward him, her heels clicking softly against the floor. I was here for a meeting yesterday. I'm heading back this afternoon. So I thought I would drop by and see you both before I go. You did great, Jungkook said warmly, standing up to greet her. He patted her shoulder in a brotherly way. His smile was genuine. Come have breakfast with us. You must be tired after all the meetings. Minji's eyes softened in a way you didn't miss. Well, I'm tired, but seeing you makes it better. She brushed her fingers lightly along his arm, just a casual graze, but enough to register in your mind. Before taking the seat right next to him without hesitation, you walked in with the coffee mugs, setting them down as Jungkook reached for the teapot. When was the last time we saw each other? He asked her. It's been a while, hasn't it? Almost 3 years, she said quickly, tilting her head and giving him a look that lingered. You have changed, in a good way. You look stronger. Her eyes traveled over him in a way that didn't feel like simple, cousinly observation. Jungkook chuckled. Yes, marriage suits me. He said, glancing at you with a smile. She makes sure I eat well and take care of myself. Minji laughed lightly, though her gaze stayed on him. You always had that boyish charm, but now you have this presence. She touched his sleeve again as if to emphasize her point. You sat down quietly, your eyes on your plate, but your senses turned to every small interaction. How long are you staying in town? Jungkook asked, taking a sip of coffee. Just until this afternoon, but I was thinking maybe next time I could stay here instead of a hotel. It would be nice to catch up properly. Of course, Jungkook said without hesitation. This house is always open to family, right, love? He said, looking at you while you nodded, forcing a tight smile. She smiled at him, her hand briefly resting on the back of his chair as she leaned in to say, You are still the sweetest. Your stomach tightened. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she leaned, the way her voice softened for him, the way her touch lingered. You are quiet today, Jungkook said suddenly, looking at you. Everything okay? You forced a small smile, just thinking about the errands I have later. You said lightly, though inside a flicker of unease had already taken root. Minji had flown back that afternoon like she said, but it wasn't long before you saw her again. It started a week later. You were arranging flowers in the living room when the doorbell rang. Jungkook, fresh from a shower and still toweling his hair, answered it. Minji, he said smiling, you are back already? I had another meeting nearby, she explained, stepping inside without hesitation. Thought I would drop by and see how you were doing. Jungkook moved aside for her, not thinking twice. You know you're always welcome. You came forward to greet her politely. You have been busy, you remarked. Very, she said with a laugh, but her eyes quickly shifted to Jungkook. Have you been eating well? You look even fitter than last week. Thanks to her, Jungkook replied easily, nodding toward you. But instead of acknowledging you, Minji lightly punched his arm. Or maybe you are working out more. I remember you used to ask me for tips back in the day. They moved into the living room, Minji choosing the seat beside him again, leaving you with the single chair across from them. She leaned in while they chatted, her hand brushing his knee. Once when she laughed, her eyes lingering a bit too long on his face. You told yourself you were imagining it. The second time happened only a few days later. You and Jungkook were just sitting down for lunch when the bell rang again. Who is it this time? You asked, half expecting the answer before he even opened the door. Minji? Jungkook greeted warmly again. You didn't tell me you were coming. I was in the area, she said sweetly, holding up a box of pastries. Brought these for you too. Come in, Jungkook said without hesitation. She slipped off her coat, revealing a fitted dress that hugged her figure. Sitting at the table, she somehow ended up next to Jungkook again, passing him a fork, pouring him tea without asking, and leaning so close their shoulders touched. So, how's work been? He asked between bites. Busy, she replied, brushing a crumb from his sleeve, a gesture that made something inside you flare. But it's nice to take a break with family. You kept your tone polite. You have been in town a lot lately. She smiled. Guess I'm lucky my work brings me here. Her hand lingered on the back of Jungkook's chair again as she stood to leave. He didn't even seem to notice. By the third visit, it was harder to dismiss. This time she came in the evening, claiming she had a late meeting and didn't want to eat alone. Jungkook insisted she stayed for dinner. You watched her laugh at all his jokes, touch his shoulder when making a point, and once you caught her looking at him when he wasn't watching. Jungkook, oblivious as ever, only had eyes for you. He asked if you were tired, if you wanted more rice, if you needed him to help with the dishes, but Minji, she was watching him like he was the only person in the room. By the time she left that night, your polite smile was a mask. Something was going on and you weren't imagining it anymore. The thought had been nagging you for days. The touches, the lingering looks, the way Minji always chose the seat beside him instead of across from him. It wasn't just friendliness, it wasn't just cousinly warmth. And no matter how much you told yourself not to overthink it, your instincts, the same instincts that never failed you, whispered otherwise. That night, you and Jungkook were folding laundry together in the bedroom. He was humming softly under his breath, carefully matching socks, his expression completely relaxed. Jungkook, you began hesitating slightly. Can I ask you something without you thinking I'm being unreasonable? He looked up at you immediately. Of course, what is it? It's about Minji. You said slowly, watching his face, his brow lifted slightly. What about her? You took a breath. I think she likes you, not as a cousin should. The way she acts, the way she looks at you, it's not right. She's crossing boundaries. Jungkook froze for half a second, then gave a small incredulous laugh. What? No. She's my cousin. That's ridiculous. I know that's how you see her, you said gently. But I have been watching. She's touchy with you. She always sits next to you. She ignores me when she talks to you. She's different with you, Cook. You can't tell me you haven't noticed anything. He shook his head, folding another shirt. I haven't because there's nothing to notice. Minji's always been friendly. She treats me like a brother. Same as when we were kids. I can't believe you would even think she... Stop. You interrupted softly. Don't make me feel like I'm imagining this. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm saying she's the one with these feelings, not you. And you know me, Cook. I don't say things like this without a reason. He sighed, setting the shirt aside. I can't see it. She's family. This is impossible. Maybe for you murmured, but not for her. 4 days later, the entire extended family gathered at their in-laws' place for a dinner. The house was full of chatter, laughter, and the clinking of dishes. You were in the living room talking to one of Jungkook's aunts when you noticed Minji arrive. And almost instantly she was by Jungkook's side. He was helping his mother bring out drinks and Minji reached for a tray he was holding. Let me help you, she said, her fingers brushing over his hand and lingering far too long. When he laughed lightly and said, I've got it, she leaned closer, whispering something in his ear that made him blink in surprise, not because it was funny but because it seemed unnecessary. Her hand stayed on his arm even after the moment passed. He watched her throughout the evening, noticing how she placed herself next to him whenever possible, cutting into conversations just to draw his attention. offering him bites of food from her own plate as if it were the most natural thing. But it was in the kitchen that made the moment came. You had gone in to help your mother-in-law with dessert when you heard voices near the counter. Minji and Jungkook were alone. Honestly, Minji was saying softly, I don't know how you managed to stay so perfect all the time. If I had met you before she did, who knows what could have happened. The pause that followed was heavy. Minji. Jungkook began, his tone sharp with warning. That was enough for you. You stepped into the doorway. Minji, a word, please. Her eyes flickered in surprise, then quickly masked themselves with a smile. Oh, sure. You walked her a few steps away, keeping your voice low but firm. I have been patient. I have ignored the touches, the whispers, the way you act around my husband. But now you have crossed the line. Her cheeks flushed and she glanced toward the living room as if checking who might be watching. You are misunderstanding. No. Jungkook's voice cut in suddenly. He had followed you both, his jaw said. She's not misunderstanding, Minji. I didn't want to believe it when she told me, but I heard you just now. This is not how family behaves. Minji looked down, clearly embarrassed now. I, I didn't mean. Yes, you did, you said quietly, and I'm telling you to stop, right here, right now. Jungkook's expression was one of deep disappointment. You are like a sister to me. I don't know what made you think this was okay, but it ends today. She nodded quickly, muttering an apology before retreating toward the hallway. Jungkook turned to you, his shoulders softening. You were right. You met his gaze steadily. I know. He reached for your hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. I'm sorry I doubted you. And in that moment, the tension you had been carrying finally eased because now he saw what you had seen all along. The next few days were blissfully quiet. No unexpected doorbell rings, no coincidentally in the area visits, no lingering stares across the dining table. Minji had vanished from your everyday life, whether out of embarrassment or because she understood the boundary now, you didn't know. And frankly, you didn't care. The house felt lighter without the undercurrent of unease. Jungkook, however, was clearly on a personal mission. The morning after the confrontation, you woke up to the smell of coffee and the faint clatter of dishes downstairs. You rolled out of bed, yawning, only to find him in the kitchen, in sweats and a messy bun, moving around with surprising efficiency. Whoa, is it my husband who is up early? You said, leaning against the door frame. He glanced up, smiling sheepishly. Figured I would make breakfast for my wife. She deserves it after putting up with a dense husband who couldn't read the room. You laughed softly. You are not dense, Coop. You just see the best in people, sometimes too much. Well, that stops when it comes to you. He placed a plate of pancakes in front of you, golden and fluffy. From now on, I'm reading the room, the table, and even the air around you. You raised an eyebrow. The air, yes? He said seriously, sliding into the seat across from you. If it's suspicious, I'll know. You shook your head, smiling despite yourself. You are ridiculous. I'm your ridiculous, he said, reaching across to take your hand. Later that afternoon, you were curled up on the couch with a book when he appeared from the hallway holding a blanket. Cold? He asked. Not really. Too bad, he said, draping it over you anyway before settling beside you and tugging you into his arms. Cook, you said, laughing. You're supposed to let me read. I am, he replied innocently, resting his chin on your shoulder. Just read while I'm here. I'll be quiet. You never stay quiet, you teased. True. He admitted, pressing a kiss to your temple, but I can try for you. It lasted all of 2 minutes before he started softly humming, not enough to be distracting, but enough to make you smile into your book. By evening, he had shifted into full pampering mode. You came into the kitchen to find him chopping vegetables. I was going to cook tonight, you reminded him. Not happening, he said without looking up. Tonight is about you doing nothing while I feed you. You already made breakfast, and now I'm making dinner, he said, tossing you a wink. Consider it my apology tour. You have been on an apology tour all day, you pointed out. Exactly, he said as if it were obvious. And I'm not stopping until I feel like you have completely forgiven me. You tilted your head. Cook, I forgave you the moment you told Minju to stop. You stood by me when it mattered. That's all I needed. His gaze softened and he set the knife down, crossing the room. He pulled you into a hug, warm, solid, and safe. I'm always going to stand by you, he murmured into your hair, even if it takes me a minute to catch on. Okay, tube light. You teased him, giggling. That night you ate dinner together on the couch, sharing bites, laughing over an old drama you both loved. At one point, he shifted so your legs were draped over his lap, his fingers absent-mindedly tracing patterns on your ankle. You know, he says suddenly, next time we have a family gathering, I'm sitting on your side of the table. Why? You asked, amused. So no one else gets the seat next to me, reserved for my wife only. You rolled your eyes, but your heart warmed all the same. You are unbelievable. And yours. He reminded you, leaning over to kiss you, slow and certain. In that moment, with his hand warm against yours and his eyes fixed entirely on you, you knew no matter how much noise the outside world made, the devotion was unshakable.